Hi, I'm James Krapp,
Isela Gutierrez,
Lannette Davila,
Avery Cortez.
and we are Group 5 doing Redesigning Crisis Communication. First off, we have our introduction. For our company, which is Company A, we measured their crisis communication system against 11 parameters, all based in the TTR test, the 3 C's of emergency management, the 4 decisions on crisis communication and risk management, and the global approaches for crisis communication, and selecting the correct spokesperson based on your geopolitical location. First off, we have the TTR test. The TTR test is an assessment of a company or organization's crisis communication capabilities. It is a 3-step assessment that focuses on transparency, two-way symmetrical communication, and the provision of information at the right time. First off, transparency. Transparency ensures that information is readily available to the public and those within the organization, no matter what point of time it is. It also ensures the proper distribution of information by a public relations officer. The public relations officer can help regulate what kind of information is available to the public and to employees at what certain times, but also ensures that the company is completely ethical in the information that it has. Next, we have two-way symmetrical communication. Two-way symmetrical communication ensures that information and communication is being transferred from the top levels of the organization to the lower levels of the organization, and also ensures that the external communications from the organization are ethical and also pertain to the information necessary to the crisis. It also ensures that all parties involved, the organization, the employees, and the public, have a total understanding of the situation at hand. Finally, we have right time provisions. Right time provisions ensures that your transparent and two-way symmetrical communication and information are being given to the public and to members of the organization at the right time. It ensures that an organization can react quickly to a crisis. It ensures that information is handed out at the right times, and it ensures that the organization can recover faster from a crisis or a situation.
Okay, next is the 3 C's of emergency management. First off, we have communication. We learned that a big part of the role, the foundation, the 3 C's is the foundation of what we learned. It involves critical to effective emergency management, involves digital, verbal, and nonverbal communication, and it also helps solve immediate problems of a crisis, helps win-solution environment, and most importantly, it's going to bring our members together. Coordination. Without coordination, everything falls apart. It's just an infrastructure that we keep building on in order to maintain the specific goals. Organize to achieve the goal, requires honesty, locate the source of issue, helps increase performance and efficiency. Control. Everybody has to have control in their organization. This generates the last process of the 3 C's. It's easily abused. It also helps narrow focus on issues, and it helps avoid escalation.
I'm talking about creating a dynamic inter-organizational system, and this type of system, it uses 4 primary decision points, which redesigns the crisis management process. And I'll be talking about the 4 primary decision points, which is detection of risk, recognition and understanding of risk, communication of risk with organizations, self-organization to reduce risk, and this is applicable to individuals, organizations, and all kinds of system levels. And of course, this is used to create common knowledge. The adaptive system is to create awareness. This allows employees to communicate effectively, and it increases awareness of potential risks, and this prepares organizations of what to expect, and this helps them manage and be more effective with the risks that can occur. The awareness of immediate damage from any fallout, the awareness of the risks brings together the it avoids long-term damage that can come from any fallout. Recognition and understanding of risks. The recognition of risk in immediate system. This helps businesses understand how far into the risk that they are in. So this helps them respond to the crisis. Businesses that must understand how risk will affect their future. So this this relates to the business's reputation. Any risk can affect the business's reputation, so they have to be careful with how it gets out to the public or other organizations. This is caused by word of mouth, and risks that could cause long-term lasting damage. This relates to the reputation as well, and how they distribute their productions and their products. Communication of risk with organizations. This is locally, and it comes from a wider region. So these risks can come from not only where the organization is located, it comes from risks that affect other organizations around the world. So if you assist a relationship with customers and surrounding environment, this is building a relationship with another organization only because if you ever get into the crisis that we are experiencing, other organizations will have your back, and a bad word of mouth, the negative word of mouth can affect your organization. So if other organizations are with you, they have your back and they actually help with that word of mouth. So building a relationship with other businesses, this is the same thing. You want to keep it in your surrounding environment to reduce risk. Self-organization to reduce risk. This develops a risk response system, and this helps organizations' engagement in self-organizing, and this system helps reduce risks. Allow community to take informal action against risks. This is a measure of the amount of risk that can occur in an organization. And this depends on communication, cognitive, and adaptive procedures.
Okay, now that we've gone over the TTR test, the 3 C's during managing a crisis situation, and also the creating a dynamic and interorganizational system, I'd like to go over the global approaches to crisis communication. So during a crisis communication, organizations need to rebuild the trust within the organization. They have to convince the audience that they're credible and reliable as an organization, as well as ethical. So the importance of crisis communication, a crisis speaker during crisis communication. Some of the things that we need to look out for are the effects of a speaker's credibility on an audience. We've also done research. We've also looked into the research that's been done on speaker credibility and how an audience distinguishes this credibility, as well as choosing the right speaker for each situation. So the effects of speaker credibility. When an audience is assessing a speaker, they're trying to relate to the speaker during the situation. And if they cannot relate to them, they find them being untrustworthy. And when they're untrustworthy, the audience definitely doesn't believe them. They might find them unethical, and you'll definitely get a negative response from the public. Some of these negative responses might be bad word of mouth. Some might actually post blogs, and by posting blogs, this can definitely reach a wider variety of people, and they can also post bad reviews. By posting these bad reviews, people who might Google the organization or look them up into the internet or in any type of way, they will see that the organization isn't reliable, they might be unethical, and definitely untrustworthy. So we looked into some studies and research done during a crisis communication, and a couple of the hypotheses that the study looked into was strong ethnic identities and weak ethnic identities. So what's the relationship between ethnic identity and the similarity between that and the audience? So the first hypothesis is that the strong ethnic identities will if the speaker has a strong ethnic identity, the audience with a strong ethnic identity will definitely see the speaker as credible. And if not, then the audience will give them a lower credibility ratings versus people with weaker identities. The second hypothesis says that the audience with a strong identity will be less accepting of what the speaker has to say than with people who have weaker identities. So tests were done, and they tested the Japanese, American, and Mexican ethnicities during these studies. And they concluded that it wasn't necessarily the strong identities that altered the credibility of the audience or the speaker. It was more of the ideology, the beliefs, values, and those certain aspects that would alter the audience's perception of the speaker. So distinguishing credibility, how an audience distinguishes credibility is partially through ethnic similarity, but mostly the attitudinal and ideological beliefs that they have, as well as the language. Some other things might be attractiveness, how the speaker talks to the audience, and just their pattern of language in general. So choosing the appropriate speaker. So in order for an organization to choose the appropriate speaker, they must assess the situation first. If the situation includes a women's rights, in other words, you're not going to choose a male speaker to speak to a group of women under this type of crisis situation. You must also consider the audience's beliefs, their ideology, the gender, and other different types of values within the audience. And by assessing the situation and the audience, you can combine that together to find the right speaker. And so organizations must do this, since it's very important that they rebuild the trust of the organization and credibility, as well as remain ethical and continue their success in their organization.
Finally, we will go over the results that we obtained from Company A's crisis communication system based on the parameters that we use to measure their crisis communication system. The results that we got were that transparency is needed in the company, because based on a recent situation that they had, they were not very transparent, and this harmed their reputation a little bit. In addition, two-way communication is needed because there was not enough upwards communication to help the upper levels of the organization mitigate the damage and also be able to respond to the risk of a situation. However, their right time information provision was very good. Their public relations officer handled the situation that they experienced with good adaptability, and also ensured that employees and the upper levels of the organization and the public, including the media, all had information at the right time. We also discovered that inward communication is needed. This relates back to two-way communication because there was not enough upwards and downwards communication present within the corporation. Overall coordination is needed in order to respond to the risk. We believe that if the company had experienced any larger of a crisis, then the damage to their reputation and to their overall customer base would have been a lot worse than what they actually experienced. So what we suggest they do is have a risk management factor incorporated into their employee workforce, so that they can have a task force set up to handle situations as they arise, and also keep the company informed of possible risks to their organization. Another thing that we noticed is some of the upper levels of the organization confuse power with control. Power is something that all managers have over their employees, but control is where the employees are willing to work with their managers